Hey guys, this is Brandon Yates here of part 2 of my motion capture series in Maya. Part 1, we talked about bringing in motion capture data and slapping this human IK rig on there. And this part, I'm going to show you how to use the human IK rig, understanding it, and then understanding animation layers and the power behind animation layers in Maya. So, let's get started. Here's the human IK rig, here are your controls. This was the definition, we did this last time. Here are the controls. The circles are basically your IKs. So if I click that one, if you use a normal IK rig before, you know exactly what they would do. You can select them through Maya's interface or through this GUI. And then these little bars right here in between them, that's your FK. So you can also select those through the interface. I find it a little bit easier, or through Maya. So, anyways, you see how this is pinned right here? That's why the rotation's not moving. I want to discuss these pins. If I was to take this and release the pins, which I just did, and then select the FK again and rotate it, it will now rotate. So the human IK already comes with pins on there to pin down the rotation and translation. I just wanted to point that out. You can pin anything. You can pin hands. So like say you want a hand to stick on the table, you can keep the hand on the table through a pin. Or there's another thing called an aux effector. What the aux effector does is basically it takes complete control of the leg now. And basically, if I don't want control of the translation or the rotation, I can bring it down. And you can key these if you want to. Set keys, so that way you can have, like say if you got sliding feet or something, you know, like on frame 5 through 10, the feet slide. You just basically key the translation and the rotation on frame 5 through 10, and then you key it back down to 0 for the rest of the animation so it doesn't affect it. So moving forward, you can select all of these by clicking the outside area, or you can just unselect them by clicking the outside area. I'm going to delete this effector, we don't need it no more. There's 3 parts of selection here. There's body part, which is what Maya automatically comes on, and if you hover over it, it says body part. And what body part does is it's exactly what you're used to, just moving the character around and stuff like that. Now one thing about body part is, you see I got a key on every single frame here. If I actually say delete the key on frame 3, it will actually delete the key on the shoulder and the elbow too, because you are on a body part. And I'm going to Z that back, so it means the whole body part. If you delete a key on the ankle, it's going to delete a key on the whole entire leg. If you delete a key on the spine, it will delete a key on the rest of the spine. So, with that said, there's selection. Now, selection, you guessed it, you delete a key on that wrist, it will still have a key on the shoulder and the elbow. Let's Z back. One thing about selection though is you cannot move the wrist, as you noticed. You might be able to rotate because of the fact that it's only the selection and it's attached to the rest of the arm. Although like the foot you can move, the hips you can move. I just never really use selection because like I'll be in the workflow and be like, oh my god, why can't the hand move? Maya's freaking out on me. And I'll be like, oh, I'm on selection. I need to be on body part, dude. Okay. But anyways, moving forward, then there's full body. You guessed it, full body. You move the hand, and everything will follow. You delete a key, and you guessed it, it deletes a key on the whole entire body. Everything does not have a key on frame 3 now. Anyways, you're going to put that back in there. So, that's a quick little rundown on the human IK. I like to stay on body part. It's just a lot easier for me, and I just know if I delete a key on the hand, the elbow and shoulder will follow. So, moving on forward, we're going to talk about animation layers. Let's just say we got this scene, we got the human IK rig on it, and the art director's like, yo, this is what we need. We need a longer jump. We need him to be longer, and we need him to go higher, and etc. And I'm like, okay, we can do that. First thing I like to do, though, is I go into the channel box. You're probably on display layers. You want to go to animation layers. This is your base animation. I like to never destroy the base animation whatsoever. So this is just a personal preference, you don't have to do this, but I'm going to show you the power of overdrive now. I'm going to select everything. I'm going to take all these keys. I'm going to copy them. Go back into my channel box, and right here you go into create layer from selected. And I'm going to call this backup because it's my backup animation in case I do something with the base animation. You know, sometimes you're working with layers, you don't know which layer you're on sometimes, you might mess it up. So with the backup, if everything's still selected on frame 1, I'm going to go ahead and hit paste. Now, whoa, what just happened? Because I got double translations, you know. Actually, I nailed it. This is what the boss wanted. So, what I do with this is if you go under your inputs and go under backup and hit override and change your override to 1, saying that nothing else below this matters. Only I matter. Bam. Now you got your original animation again. And the base animation is now backed up, and we can just work off this. Another beautiful thing about this is now, it's like, say you have an animation and the boss is like, hey, offset the arms, offset the legs. And you're like, okay, sure, I'll do that. And you just start taking keys and you start moving them. The next thing you know, your whole timeline looks like this red everywhere, and you just don't know where your key was and where your in-between was and where was your breakdown, because you're so confused about you offsetting things. Well, guess what? You got a backup. Bam, there's your original animation. So you can do whatever you want to your backup. Your original is still good. And there's a reason why I made this, and you'll see it here in the future, but let's continue. The boss wants this to go farther. That's pretty easy, actually. What we're going to do is we got to find out which controls will make this character move without changing his silhouette. And I've done this before, and I know it's the hips, and the wrist, and the legs. Those 5 controls. And to prove it, as I move him around, I can move him as he is, and the silhouette does not change whatsoever. I'm going to go ahead and hit this again, create layer from selected. I'm going to call this jump. Say you forgot something to throw in this layer, you can just right click and hit add selected objects. As long as you have that object selected, you can add it. Moving on forward though. On frame 1, looks like his foot's on the ground, and it leaves on frame 2. So I set a key on frame 1. And then let's see which frame his foot hits the ground. Frame 15. So I set a key there, but on this key, more. Hit S. Oh, computer's lagging. My apologies. Just moving back forward and not lag. Alright, there we go. Hit S. And now we got a longer jump. He also said for it to be higher. So, you know what? Let's make it even longer. Let's have fun with it. You want it higher? I'll go on like frame 7. Bring it up higher. And now we have a jump. Yeah, it looks a little linear at the moment, so it's going to give it its in-betweens. Give it a little bit of arcing action. Everybody loves those arcs. Okay, now this looks pretty good. You know, it's not perfect, but hey, for tutorial sakes. So now you're like, okay, nailed it. I got it. Bam. So now you got this jump. He's going faster, he's going stuff like that. And I just want to show you a thing called the weight. And what the weight does is if I go under here, we have the backup, which was the override is on for the backup. The weight is on 1. And the weight is the layer affecting the base animation. Right now, if I take the weight back to 0, it's like the jump was never there. Although if I take the weight back to 1, the jump is there, or like the higher jump. So the power of that is you can key the weight. It is keyable. And let's just say, I don't know, like, just for tutorial sake, this is not going to look good, but let's just say in the jump that he wants the legs more spread apart, like farther. So we're going to go ahead and select the legs. Go ahead and hit the add layer to selection, or make a layer from selection. We're going to call this leg spread. Giggity goo, giggity giggity goo. Alright, no, I'm just kidding. But anyways, and right here, we're going to set a key. I'm going to do this as sloppy and quickly as possible because we're not going to keep this. To one going that way, and one going this way. Yeah, beautiful. But now, if you look, that animation layer looks great for what you wanted, but now, like, as he moves, like, the layer is still affecting the animation, and you don't really want that. So this is where you go down here, you go to your channel box, you click leg spread, because that's what we named it. We take the weight, we right click, and we key it. We know on frame 7 we want it full extension, but on frame 1 we don't want it at all. So I'm going to bring that down to 0. And look, all of a sudden the animation layer doesn't have any effect on it. And as he goes to jump, this is actually in-betweening. Maya's in-betweening it, and the weight is 6.67. And then as he lands, which if I remember it's frame 15, we want the weight back to 0. And we're going to key it. And now it works. We have that pose in the middle, and it doesn't affect the rest of the animation. So that's the power of the weight. So you know the power of the override, and you know the power of the weight now. I don't really like that, so I'm going to delete the layer. I don't want anybody judging me. So leg spread is now gone. Okay, so now we have this jump animation. It's faster, but the boss is now saying, hey, he needs more hang time. He's like going way too fast. You know, we need more frames between 1 and 15 for him to make that kind of distance. So he's like, how about you put frame 15 on frame 30? Double. If you're doing double the distance, I want double the frames. And I'm like, okay, well, this is where the backup comes in, because you have a backup animation and you're about to be playing with timing, you're about to be rearranging things around, and you really don't want to ruin your base animation. You don't want to ruin the original, because that's precious cargo. You might have to restart your whole animation if you do that. So here's the backup. We got the override on 1. We have the jump. He says the jump is good. So this is what we're going to do. We're actually going to merge. This is very destructive, but make sure this is all good before you do this. And we're going to merge these layers. Maya is going to bake this all in. And now it's all going to be one animation.